It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Opperman Report. Don't forget our Patreon, putting up constantly new content on Patreon every day. And you can find our archives at Spreaker.com. And if you go to our archives, you'll find our guest today, Kevin Blatt, who is known as the Hollywood fixer and Hollywood sex tape broker. Fascinating life and career. Fun guy always. On and off the air, by the way. He's always fun. So, Kevin Blatt, are you there?
How you doing, brother? It always makes me laugh to hear the moniker celebrity sex tape broker. It doesn't matter whether it's reading it in Vanity Fair or I'm being on Stern or whatever. When somebody calls me the celebrity sex tape broker, it just brings a smile to my face. It's just so ridiculous, isn't it?
Well, how do you describe yourself at the soccer games?
Funny enough, it's not so much the games. I play a lot of golf, right?
Right.
And I play with guys here in L.A. that are at the top of their field. Some guys do commercials that you see during the Super Bowl. They're editors. Some guys are professional photographers. Other guys work in the music industry, agents, producers, whatnot. One guy even plays keyboards with The Who. They always say to me, "So what do you do for a living?" And I go, "I'm a celebrity sex tape broker." They all laugh. And then I give them my card, and I don't think I've ever had the pleasure of giving you my business card, but on one side of my card it says pick a number with the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. And 89% of the time people pick the number 3. When I turn the card over, it says all sex maniacs pick 3. It says KB, the celebrity sex tape broker. And then people look at me like, okay, how the hell did you do that? Number one. And number two, how did you know I was a sex maniac? It has nothing to do with sex, by the way. It's a psychological thing. I met a psychologist many years ago while I was walking the beaches in Negril, Jamaica, who did a right-handed versus left-handed study. And 89% of the time, if you're right-handed, you'll pick the number 3 in succession on my business card. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. It's all about marketing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I tell you something, and you're not exaggerating either, because I follow you on Instagram and stuff, and you always seem to be, like, every day is like a party for you, man.
Perception is reality, as they say, right?
I don't know, man.
Every day is not so much a party. Every day is definitely a blessed day above ground. And I don't want to sound like some crazy born-again Jesus fanatic. I'm not that. It's just that, I don't know about you, but in the last couple years, since the pandemic, I've been losing friends left and right. Like, I'll wake up, I'm a phone call from somebody, be like, hey, remember so-and-so? I'll be like, yeah, are they in town? No, they're dead. And you start hearing enough of that you start thinking to yourself, you know, what's the thing back in that? What's the saying in Shawshank? Get busy living or get busy dying?
Mm-hmm. No, I hear you. I'm having the same experience. Yeah, I'm having the same experience as you.
You know, and the whole time I was locked up, I don't know about you, but I could tell by the Karens that we encounter every single day and all these people that are miserable that the pandemic was not good to a lot of people. It turned a lot of people into alcoholics, drug addicts, QAnoners, whatever. For me, it was the best thing that ever happened, me being single and isolated in my place. I played golf every other day. I wrote a book.
Well, you did. What's the name of the book?
Right now it's called Confessions of a Hollywood Sex Tape Broker.
Okay.
But here's the problem I'm having, Ed. Maybe you could understand this a little bit. Publishers are scared to death of woke culture right now. They are not ready to blow the whistle on the Kardashians. They're not ready to be in the line of fire for lawsuits and cancellations and whatnot. And I kind of get it. That's the political climate that we find ourselves in right now, right? So publishing the book, I think, is going to be problematic. However, I met with a couple TV producers, and they're very interested in making this into a dark comedy, which, if you fictionalize it, I think that's where it's better suited.
Yeah, like a series. Because you have so many adventures. Yeah, you've had so many adventures over and over. But there was just a big controversy about the Kardashian mom there taking a polygraph and stuff like that. Give us the whole story. You know the whole story, right?
I mean, look, the story goes like this. The Kardashians are charlatans. For lack of a better word, they owned a clothing store here in Encino, Dash. That is where they began. Kim was a closet organizer for Paris Hilton and a hanger-on who wanted to be bigger than Paris Hilton. So she made her own sex tape in hopes of becoming bigger than Paris. And as I think I've told you on your show before, I met with Ray J initially because Ray J told me she wanted to leak it for free, and I had to dissuade them from doing that because if they would have done that, there would have been no money. And I had a deal that was tentatively set through Ray J to bring into one adult company, and shook his hand. We left that meeting doing pretty good stuff. And he went through Joe Francis, the guy who owned the big brand Girls Gone Wild, over to Vivid and did a deal without us. Not bitter whatsoever, but I do know that the deal was executed by Kris Jenner, and the Kardashians were willing participants. Always were from day one.
And she's claiming, though, that she wasn't, that somehow it was leaked?
I mean, yeah. It's all nonsense. Because as you know, Ed, you have to have license to put anything out. You have to have a release. That's a license to use your name and likeness for commercial purposes. Whether you're in a movie, a television show, this is different because we're over the radio airwaves and I'm on a phone with you. But, if you were making money off of this publication anyway, you would have to get my consent to sell my name and likeness, basically. Especially in movies or television. That's just the way it goes, or print. Anyway, there's 2257, which is the USC law, California law that states if you're going to put out any kind of pornographic material, you've got to have two forms of identification that show that you're over 18 years of age. And the reason they do that, you're old enough to remember the name Tracy Lords.
Sure.
Tracy Lords was a adult actress who later became a mainstream actress in some John Waters films and other indie films. But she was under the age of 16. She was 15 years old when she got into the porno industry, claimed that she was 18, and a lot of people went to jail. So that is why we have USC 2257, and that is why I still make a living doing the sex tapes, but to be honest with you, it's a different landscape these days. The way that I get paid on sex tapes these days is to suppress them. Or find private collectors that would want to pay it and never put it out but keep it privately. And believe it or not, this is going to sound really kooky, there's a huge market of these people. And, I live out here in the San Fernando Valley. I live in a little county enclave of LA called Toluca Lake. Bob Hope's old mansion's right up the street. Old money. But I also hang out with people in Beverly Hills that are billionaires. And there are people here that collect not only like movie memorabilia. I've met people that had original letters from the Beatles with lyrics, like Lucy in the Sky, the actual lyrics of the songs. There's people that collect sex tapes. There's people that collect all kinds of stuff that you can't put out commercially. So I've been meeting a lot of them, and it's a weird underbelly. I mean, what I do is definitely a lot different than what most people do. There's no doubt about it.
It's along the lines of catch and kill, right?
Yeah, I do a lot. Well, I won't say I do a lot, but obviously it's part of what I do. The Me Too era has been very good to me. In that, when I say that, I don't want to come across as sounding like I suppress things for bad people that are knowingly bad people. There is the other side where the Me Too thing got a little crazy to where women were hunting for bed, and not all these women had claims. Obviously Weinstein and Kevin Spacey and all those people were the tip of the iceberg. There were a lot of guys that got railroaded.
Oh, yeah, around the Epstein story, there's like 20 women making claims that I know are nuts.
Yeah, or had nothing to do with that.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with them, yeah.
I got involved with the Tiger Woods fiasco many years ago. And if you remember the story, the first woman that came out was Rachel Yucatel. And Rachel Yucatel was a club host in New York City, and she actually did have an affair with Tiger while Tiger was married. She was the one that got paid all the money to go away, and then ultimately violated her NDA, her non-disclosure agreement. They had to pay the money back.
Yeah.
But on the heels of Rachel Yucatel coming out, all of a sudden there were 17 mistresses that claimed to be with Tiger because they were lined up for a payday. And here we are all these years later, and Deshaun Watson, quarterback of the Cleveland Browns, similar situation with the massage therapist, if you've been following that story. You know, where there's smoke, there's fire, and obviously he was probably guilty of a lot of the malfeasance that they allege. But when you have 22 girls that line up and they all share the same lawyer, something doesn't smell right.
So, Kevin, now you must know the story then about the Tiger Woods mistress. I believe it was Devin James and Bubba the Love Sponge and that whole story.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, these stories, it's funny because as I get older, I'm forgetting more than I remember.
Me too.
I'll see something on television about something, and I'll go, oh, yeah, Brittany Murphy. I remember I had a butler that came to me with all the stories about the drugs they were doing. Or these things come back to me now. Oh, Jocelyn James, yeah, the Tiger Woods mistress who was also involved with this. And Bubba the Love Sponge with Hulk Hogan and that sex tape where I served as a expert witness. I forget that my fat face was on a screen in front of Pinellas County jurors talking about celebrity sex tapes. How ludicrous is that when you think about that?
And yeah, it is. It's a wild ride, man. It's a wild ride. But the thing with Devin James, she claimed she had a sex tape with Tiger Woods, and the whole thing was fake. She made a fake tape.
There were people that did that with Justin Bieber. And I mean, like, there's been so many things over the years. I will say I just recently got done doing a TV show that's going to air, I think, in July on Hulu. And it's called The Dark Side of the 2000s. And this particular episode is all about TMZ. I had a very close relationship with TMZ for many, many years. I don't know if you knew that about me, but I was their biggest source of stories, I would say, between the years of 2008 to 2014. You know, obviously with people shopping me sex tapes and pics of genitalia. Again, I know I can't swear on your show, so I'm being very careful. Have you ever heard me be this meticulous?
No, you're great, man. This is great, yeah.
People who know me listening to this are going to go, is this Kevin Blatt we're listening to?
It's Father Kevin Blatt. It's a different version.
He hasn't said the F word once in his interview. But yeah, so many stories that I would basically turn into money because back then TMZ was buying. It became the new porn. More people wanted to know about Lindsay Lohan and Britney Spears and Paris Hilton back in those years than they wanted to know about any porn star you ever dealt with.
Okay, I got a question for you about Lindsay Lohan, okay? Because I know you were involved with Vivid Entertainment as well, right?
Yeah, for a minute.
At one point, Lindsay Lohan was driving a car that was registered to Vivid Entertainment?
Oh, my God. You are so funny, Ed. You are so funny. Okay, so I'm going to tell you the real story right
Please,
now
thank
because
you.
I know it 100%.
Thank you.
I don't know how you remember this, but she got pulled over because she ran into the door. There was a giant art structure outside of the Mondrian Hotel, and she was in a white Maserati. My friend Mike Walters from TMZ calls me up, and he says, I have to ask you a question, Mr. Porn Guy. And I go, yeah, shoot. And he goes, who's Rondi Kamens? I go, Rondi Kamens? She's the owner of General Video of America, the biggest porn distributor in the country. She's based out of Cleveland. I know her very well. I'm from Cleveland. Why? And they said, well, the car that Lindsay Lohan was driving was registered to her. So I called Rondi immediately and said, hey, Rondi, you're about to get a bunch of national media that you're not going to want. And she goes, why? And I said, do you have a white Maserati? She goes, oh, yeah, Dennis leases that from me. There was a porn guy out here named Dennis who works with Rondi and works with Vivid. He was doing some stuff with Vivid at the time, but it was not Vivid that actually had the car. But basically, a pornographer was driving around town, and he was obviously stooping Lindsay at the time.
Oh, so that's how she had the car.
Yeah, well, that's how Lindsay borrowed Dennis's car, her guy who she was sleeping with at that time, who happened to be borrowing the car or subleasing it from Rondi in Cleveland.
Okay.
But it was really funny because I was the guy who got the phone call on it first. And I am what at that point was like the epicenter of the porn business. It was 6 degrees of KB.
It's a small world. It's a small world.
There's 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon and there's 6 degrees of Kevin Blatt.
You got to write a book, man. You really do. Or the series.
My 6 degrees is a lot more nefarious. But, so the book is good. Like, if you read my book right now, Ed, you'd be like, I love it. I don't know why you wouldn't put this out on Amazon. You should just pay to publish. But again, do I want to get sued every other week? Yeah, it would probably help sales for the book, but it's a whole thing, man.
Yeah. One thing, I might have a publisher for you. I'm going to contact you off the air. But the other thing, too, is, and I've been kind of hinting around about this, besides being sued, in Hollywood, there are these characters that are like professional stalkers, fixers and PIs, they call themselves, and these other lower rung characters right under them, that these guys are like, they got 100 restraining orders against them.
Yeah. It's interesting because you're a PI, and obviously you have to uphold laws in whatever state you're licensed to become a private investigator. I get hired on many occasions to work as a fixer, so to speak, handling crisis management or whatever you want to call it. I do stuff that you can't do, right?
That is so true.
I work alongside guys like you. I don't work under someone's license, so to speak, like you are when you become a private investigator. I don't know how many hours. I think it's like 100 hours. Or how many hours does it take to become a PI?
Well, in New York, you need an associate's degree in criminal justice and 2 years as an apprentice.
Right,
working under another guy. Yeah, or you can do 4 years under another apprentice. I'm originally from New York.
And if I remember correctly, because I looked into, you don't get paid for that work.
Oh no, you can get paid in New York. Well, in New York in 1980. I don't know about now.
Yeah, I think you get paid. I looked into doing what you do because I enjoy it. I enjoy being able to do some of the lookups and background checks and stuff like that. It's interesting stuff. But because I'm not licensed to do that type of work, I work alongside some PIs out here. And I find what you guys do is fascinating. Some guys really have a knack for it as far as like process serving and being able to find people. That's amazing to me. But I also have my ways of finding people. I work with people that are internet people. As you know, I work with a company called Profile Defenders, and we do a lot of work in removing negative marks on search engines from people. People who might have had DUIs or some BS allegation against them or a lawsuit against them that ends up spited on the internet. What do you do? And these days people are leaving their jobs in droves and changing careers, and they're moving. And, people do background checks on people. And whatever you Google that comes up that's negative does not help you. And in the last year, I would say our business is up about 300% because of this. So it's been good for me and bad for me because it cuts into my golf time,
Yeah, I interviewed your friend from profiledefenders.com. As a matter of fact, I'm going to replay a repeat of that episode tonight just to get people warmed up for Kevin Blatt.
Richard's great.
Yeah, really nice guy, too. He tried to help me out with something else, too. I had another problem. But you mentioned earlier today in the call Joe Francis, right? I've always found him to be such an interesting character because he was flying around. He had a private jet before Girls Gone Wild. What's his story?
So Joe Francis, it's funny, I did a huge interview about this. There was supposed to be a big hit piece coming out about him because, the Kardashians are very friendly with Joe Francis still to this day.
Really?
And Joe is the biggest exploiter of women that I've ever met, one of the worst people, biggest that I've ever met in the business. I mean, he shot girls that were underage.
Yeah.
He abused women. He was not a good guy. Joe made money from Girls Gone Wild, but he basically ripped off the idea from some people that were in San Diego that did the same thing. He just did it better. And he figured out a way in which fraudulently he could really make a lot of money. And then that way was you couldn't cancel your membership, or once you bought one of his videos off of late night TV, your credit card was going to get whacked every single month.
Wow.
And then if you tried to cancel, you would call an 800 number. They would put you through the customer service rigmarole where you'd be on hold for hours and never able to cancel. It was a unbelievable empire that he built.
Yeah.
And very much like I always tell people when you watch the movie Scarface, like, you don't have to like Tony Montana, right? He's not a good guy. But you have to respect the empire that Tony Montana built. And that's why people like that movie so much, right? They kind of root for the bad guy because he built this incredible empire from nothing. That's what Joe Francis is to me.
And he's down in Mexico now, right? Because he has legal problems in the States?
Hiding out in Punta Mita, Mexico, in a giant mansion.
Yeah.
He has all kinds of pending litigation and tax issues here in this country. And, his wife left him, took the kids. He's people around him that have told me that he's bipolar, schizophrenic, and obviously he was always on drugs back in the day. I remember years ago when we obtained the Paris Hilton storage locker. There was a website called Paris Exposed, and one of the contents that was found in there was a video of Joe Francis sitting on this boat, and there was about an ounce of cocaine on his chest, and everybody was coming up and doing lines off of his chest. It was amazing.
What do you make? Why do you think they went after him so hard down there in Florida? When he had Roy Black working for him, and they tore him up. He wanted representing himself.
But if you look at what he did, he thumbed his nose at the judge, and he had a guy named Scott Barber, who's now passed away, who came into the jail and gave him all kinds of contraband. Oh, yeah, it was a whole thing. But he literally would not back down, and he was defiant, and he was crazy, and he was guilty.
Yeah, fascinating character. But the thing is, like, Paris Hilton was flying around with him on his private jet before One Night in Paris, when she was younger than that.
That's right. That's right. These L.A. club kids out here, and these money guys, they all... The water seeks its own level, as they say. Have you ever heard that expression?
I have heard that expression, my friend. I wish I was going to ask you this. You're friends with Mark. I met you through Mark Ebner, right? And Mark Ebner had the 6 Degrees of Paris Hilton. Let's talk about 6 Degrees of Kevin Blatt.
I talk to Mark all the time. We do some stuff together. I absolutely love Mark Ebner. He is... I don't know if you saw the last thing he did that was on Hulu with Giancarlo Granda, but it was very well done, The Pool Boy.
Yeah. No, I love that story. I had heard that story around the same time he did. I love, if you talk to Mark Ebner every day, send my apologies to him, please. I had him booked to come out to talk about the Pool Boy book, and my daughter got sick. I had to fly to D.C. Overnight, and I totally forgot to cancel the interview. So I've been kind of hiding from him, to be honest with you.
I can tell you right now that he don't care.
Okay.
It's interesting because the Pool Boy had a nervous breakdown.
Oh, really?
So this Giancarlo Granda, who's, and for those in the audience that are wondering what we're talking about, this is the story of Jerry Falwell's fall and the Liberty University and everything that happened when there was a threesome. Jerry Falwell and his wife had picked up this pool boy who was working in a hotel in Florida and made him part of a regular sexual threesome. And our friend Mark Ebner wrote a book about it. And funny enough, he wasn't able to promote the book because there was no accessibility to the kid because the kid's in a mental institution.
Oh, my God. I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, so how's that for a reveal on the Ed Opperman show? There you go. There's your exclusive tonight.
I did. I'll put out a press release right now. Okay. By the way, I got a little story for you too. It's said that Jerry Falwell Jr. still has Michael Cohen on the payroll, so that Michael Cohen doesn't talk about Epstein and doesn't talk about abortions.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
I've heard that.
What do you think?
I think it's all stuff that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's all stuff I deal with. This is the kind of stuff I deal with all the time. And most of the stuff that I deal with I can't talk about, obviously, because I sign away NDAs. I had a couple things in the last couple months that were really crazy. A big celebrity's daughter in a sex tape, an extortion plot to this guy. I got involved. I bought up the material, and then once we bought it up and everybody signed off on it, the same video popped up 3 weeks later with another derelict. So it's funny. It's like whack-a-mole in this town.
Right.
People are never honest, and just when you think you're dealing with people that you know who these people are, you really don't know who these people are at all.
Okay, speaking of crazy, what was your dealings with Tila Tequila?
that was a time ago. That was a vivid situation. I had a sex tape of Tila Tequila with a boyfriend named Francis 10, who was a bass player, who consequently used to date a woman. His girlfriend was Mary Queen Mandig. Mary Queen ends up leaving this guy, Francis, for Trent Reznor, the lead singer, Oscar winner, Grammy winner for 9 Inch Nails. But Francis 10's other exploit was this girl named Tila Tequila. Had a sex tape with her. Gonna put it out. I remember calling up Steve Hirsch from Vivid saying, hey, I need to meet you. Come meet us. I have the best sex tape you've ever seen. And he's like, well, come meet me in my office. And I said, no, you're going to meet us at the restaurant next door, Michelli's. And he says, I don't leave my office. I said, well, I don't go on video cameras and closed circuit TV with people that I don't want known to people. And this guy ended up leaving his ivory tower to meet us. Saw this tape, and it was the best sex tape he'd ever seen because Francis, let's just say, had a utensil that was very workable. And it was a very hot sex tape on a vacation. The next thing I know, I end up getting sued. And I'm getting sued by Vivid and Tila Tequila. And I'm like, what is going on here? Not Vivid so much. Vivid financed a lawsuit against me and a lawyer I was working with at that time, who I think you know.
Yeah.
Might be an advertiser to him. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, he and I got in trouble as a result of this. And then here's a great story for you. So me and Keith get sued. And we get a cease and desist and not go any further on this tape. And I'm like, how the hell would Tila be able to afford this law firm? And then I find out Steven had given her the money. I am dating a penthouse pet at this time. And I go up to see her in San Francisco, and she's with her friend. And I'm working on having I believe you call them a menage a trois, with these 2 hot penthouse pets. And I'm in this hotel room in San Francisco, and the one girl says to me, KB, you got any new sex tapes? And I said, as a matter of fact, I do, but I can't really talk about it. She goes, oh, really? Come on, you could tell us. And I said, no, I really can't talk about it because I kind of have an NDA in place. She goes, well, as long as it's not Tila Tequila, then we're all good. And I don't know why she threw out the name Tila Tequila, and I go, what? She goes, yeah, I just filmed an all-girl sex tape with Tila Tequila for Vivid, and I can't tell anybody either, so now we both have a secret. And then it just hit me. Now I know why Tila Tequila's trying to sue me and stop me from putting out a hetero sex tape.
Gotcha.
Because that would have sold 100 times the copies that a lesbian sex tape would have. See how it's swimming with the sharks.
Gotcha. What? That's a fascinating story, man. But no, but when you see Tila Tequila now, she's on YouTube and stuff, in a tragic situation. Would she? And she's exposing the Illuminati over and over again. I don't know what she's really saying.
I haven't heard her name in years. I haven't seen her. I know that she became a Nazi many years ago or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
I forgot about that.
But dude, mental illness, man. You know, social media. I used to think porn was the worst thing that could happen for narcissists.
Yeah.
And then social media came along. And then I realized, man, when you mix porn and nudity with social media, wow. And now it's like every time I open up TikTok or you open up Instagram, it's a girl shaking her rear end or showing off their boobs. This is the culture that we've procured. Like we developed and built monsters. Like, I'm looking at Tila Tequila as just another victim of that machine, you know, the reality TV machine, too. It chews up a lot of these girls and spits them right out.
You know, it's so funny how we seem to be on the same wavelength, because I was just talking a couple of weeks ago about this OnlyFans, you know. It's so common for a young girl, 18 years old, to have her OnlyFans page, you know, more than not.
Yeah. It's funny. I just pitched this as a producer to a big platform, and obviously they're like, "Well, we already have a show about OnlyFans in the works right now." Yeah, but my pitch is a little bit different because, like, now you have a comedian like Whitney Cummings, who, by the way, last night at the Comedy Store here, they shut down the Comedy Store, did a buyout. She is doing her new special on OnlyFans. So instead of Netflix and Hulu and all these different platforms that people are paying for the streamers, people are now figuring out a way to get a monthly, like Patreon or now the OnlyFans, a monthly subscription, because it's all about the monthly recurring revenue.
Yeah.
It's kind of, you look at it, it's bringing us right back to where we were with the adult industry. The adult industry, when I got into it in 97, 98, people didn't understand what an affiliate program was. And an affiliate program were webmasters basically sending you to websites where you would buy a membership for $29.95 a month. And, most guys who would get hot and horny late at night, drunk, and be surfing for porn would buy an adult membership but forget that they even did it the next morning. And every month, their credit card would get whacked $29.95 by some generic billing company called American Telnet or Telnet Services of America or whatever it was. And, most Americans can only pay the minimum on their credit card bills and never really look through their charges very closely. And that's how that whole market was born. And now you see that people are going after that monthly subscription. They're just not doing it for $29.95 a month anymore because people notice that kind of money missing out of their bank accounts. They don't miss $3.99 or $5.99 a month.
Yeah, and with paperless billing now, everybody you can't even check.
That's right. But you get 100,000 people paying $3.99 a month, and guess what? You're making some serious coin.
I hear you, man. Hey, remember back in the '80s, there was a sex tape with Rob Lowe.
Of course, the Democratic National Convention. She was 16 years old.
Yeah, what do you know about that?
You would have thought that would have ruined his career, right?
Yeah, right.
People forgot.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying, dude, the R. Kelly, unless you go to jail for your crimes, we have very short memories in this country. People are going to forget very soon about the whole insurrection, like it never, ever happened. Mm-hmm. And you got to look at this stuff and go, man, we have a very short attention span. Just like celebrities, man. We build these celebrities up so much because we can't wait to tear them down. And why do we like to tear them down so much? Because we can't wait to see them rebuild like a phoenix from the ashes. It's like we're just a sick world. We love other people's misery, don't we?
Well, yeah, like the Aztecs used to, sacrifice those people. We're still doing it. We haven't slowed down,
It's Roman times. It's feeding people to the lions. It's the society of the spectacle. That's what people like. And at one point, I really felt like I was in the middle of that chasm. I was able to really entertain by having all these crazy sex tapes and these over-the-top stories with TMZ. And now it's funny, dude. The only time whales get harpooned is when they come up the spout. And I really feel like now I'm better suited being underwater, doing what I do. It's far more profitable and less stressful.
I hear you. Now, you mentioned before that there's people in California that collectors. They collect these tapes.
Yep.
Like Hefner and Larry Flint?
Well, interestingly enough, Hefner had an alleged vault that he kept a lot of stuff in that included a lot of gay stuff and included a lot of compromising material on people. They said that was brought out to sea and dumped. I don't know if I buy that. Hustler, I know, kept the safe full of political opposition stuff. Obviously, Larry became a huge champion of that type of stuff. He liked having all kinds of leverage on politicians, and he would pay big money for any tip that would lead any kind of Republican to the slaughterhouse. If you remember, he was a real champion of that type of stuff. I wonder what happened to that kind of thing. People always ask me all the time if they knew that AMI kept a treasure trove of stuff. Obviously, they bought up a lot of stuff about Trump,
right?
All that stuff. And Harvey, same thing. I don't think Harvey over at TMZ actually has a vault full of compromising material on people, but I do believe that AMI did. David Pecker and AMI. That was the biggest thing that was mentioned. I wonder whatever happened to David Pecker after he had to step down. You never hear about him anymore, do you?
That's right. Yeah. I know a couple of things, but but I don't want to get into that. Hey, now what about you hear that? Who is that? The producer, the statutory rapist, Polanski, Roman Polanski. The people say that there was sex tapes involved in that murder and stuff. You ever hear anything about that?
Nah, way before my time, bro.
Oh, okay.
Roman, that whole thing happened like in '69 or '68. I was born in '69.
I know, but I figured maybe I heard some rumors after, you know. Oh, yeah, you're younger than me. Look at that. You're younger than me. I thought we were about the same age. I am a very experienced worldly man. What about, did you see that letter that I posted recently written by Hunter S. Thompson?
No, what was that?
He talks, someone sent him a letter saying, what do you know about snuff films? And he wrote back saying, the only one I know about is the one that I did with Jack Nicholson. And it's in Hunter Thompson's handwriting, you know? So what do you, any snuff films have you heard about?
Never.
Never.
The only snuff film that I ever heard about was something that was misconstrued as a snuff film, and that was a Nine Inch Nails first video where Trent was laying out in a cornfield with cornstarch all over his face, and there was a balloon tethered above him with an 8mm camera attached to it that got loose and somehow floated into a farmer's field in Indiana. They found this film and thought that it was a snuff film and brought it to the FBI. And that, people forget about it, but that was initially what prompted Nine Inch Nails to get a lot of press before they released their first song. That was, I think, in 1987, 88.
What about you hear these stories about Anthony Weiner's laptop and stuff like that? Have you ever heard any rumors?
Nah.
Okay. And what about you've heard of the video Frazzle Drip that's supposed to be Uma Abedin and Hillary Clinton? You know, any rumors about that?
No, I think that falls under the adrenochrome file.
Right, exactly, man, exactly. You know, and by the way, the whole adrenochrome thing. Like, come on, have you ever heard of anybody buying or selling that stuff or its existence anywhere?
No, dude. If anybody was going to sell it, it would have been Alex Jones.
That's so true. Yeah, they found him with tranny porn on his phone, right? And all kind of shenanigans with that guy.
I hope the worst thing that could happen to that guy happens to that guy.
Yeah.
He deserves it. He deserves it all. This week, the highlight I had was I had posted on my Facebook the story about Jesse James cheating on his wife, allegedly, Bonnie Rotten, who was a porn star that I knew very well, tattooed porn star, and she got mad. And I didn't realize she was still following me on Facebook, and she, oh, I'm sorry, I got more. So mad at me. She had to go on my Facebook and scream at me. And I was like, listen, honey, this is in the Daily Mail. Like, you have bigger fish to fry. You have bigger fish than to fry than me.
Yeah, I hear you, man. What other ones that maybe the public hasn't heard about that you can talk about?
Oh, man, that I could talk about.
Yeah, that's the thing, yeah.
I mean...
Well, let me hit you with this.
Rather...
When I mentioned Ebner before, I was getting into the whole thing about Paris Hilton's cell phone and all the phone numbers she had in there of bail bondsmen.
Yeah. That was the sidekick. She had a sidekick that got hacked. I was definitely in receipt of the sidekick. And one thing that people forget really fast is there was a note in her sidekick that said, "Pick up money from Red Light from Rick." The only person who knows what that meant was me. And that was her picking up a check from Red Light District Video, her portion for her monthly payout every single month on her porn tape. And that was right next to, like, Matt Sorm's phone number, who was the drummer from Guns N' Roses, and the Spanish Kitchen, which is a big Spanish tapas place that all the celebrities went to. I remember that vividly. And now it's funny. I did a deep dive to try to find that information. Can't find it anywhere on the internet anymore.
Yeah, how does that work? That happens all the time.
You call profile defenders.
Profile defenders, gotcha. Okay, man.
Somebody made that go away. I don't know who did it, but it wasn't us. But somebody buried that.
Yeah, there was something on the top of my head I was going to ask you about when you talking about Paris Hilton, and now I can't remember it.
Was it a herpes?
I don't think it was that. No. I don't think it was that. And he said, well, how about this thing with the ball you put on, the pimpin' hose ball? You still doing that?
The players' ball. We haven't done that in years.
Oh, really?
That was the highlight of every January. And we would end the adult convention, the AVN week, with the players' ball, which was the starting of the internet side of the porn business. And we'd have Snoop Dogg and Cypress Hill and Slick Rick, Dougie Fresh, all the legends would play. And we would all get dressed up as pimps and hoes, and it was a debaucherous time.
Yeah, I remember, not to interrupt you, but in the late 90s, I had a beeper and cell phone company in New York, so I used to go to CES in January. Yep. This is before AVN. And it was downstairs, there was a paper sign, a handwritten sign that said, adult software this way. You walk into this room, and it was like Caligula going on in there. Those were the days.
I'm glad that you remember that, because CES at that time, it was the same exact time as the porn convention.
Right.
And we would get all the looky-loos that would come through wanting to meet the adult stars like Jenna Jameson and whoever were the porn stars du jour back then. You would see these guys that worked for Panasonic, or they worked for some type of electronics company, right? And Motorola. And these guys would have their mouths wide open with their tongues hanging. And, oh, my God, when they would see us dressed up as pimps and hoes going through the Venetian with our pimp cups in our hands, and all these people following us, and women scantily clad, they would all be like, how can we be friends with you? And I remember so many times selling guys like you, like a ticket for $500 just to come into our party. Our tickets were private. It was a private party. But every now and then, I'd pay for my trip, or I'd pay for the lost wages at the blackjack table by selling some guy who wanted to get in the adult convention to see,
Yeah, I was at CES. I was at CES every year, so we had to pass by each other. And the thing was, down there with that paper sign, the basement, adult software, that's where the bar was. So if you wanted to get a drink, you had to go through this gauntlet. And that's how I met Ron Jeremy the first time, because I found a shortcut to get to the bar and back out. He says, how are you getting through here so fast?
That poor thing. You'll never see him again.
Yeah, I was just saying the same thing, because now $6 million bail?
Yeah, he's locked up. I think he's got 20 cases against him.
Yeah.
It's too bad, too, because I knew Ronnie very well for a very long time. He would come to every one of our parties, introduce all the acts, was always a gentleman, always nice to us. Obviously, we knew he was gropey. He always, would grope any woman that came close to him. But again, I'm not making any kind of defense. What he's accused of is some really heinous stuff. But women would come up to him all the time and be like, will you sign my boobs? And he would be more happy to oblige than anything, but he would take liberties with that, and that's where things got a little weird. Most women kind of liked the attention, and they were always like, oh, haha, Ron, stop. And they would, swat his hands off of them or whatever. And he would know, okay, no means no. But that's not what is alleged to have happened at the Rainbow Bar and Grill out here and other places. He obviously took it too far and raped, allegedly, a lot of these girls, and that's what they're alleging. So I know that other porn stars in the industry have similar stories, and either way, from what I understand, Ronnie's got Alzheimer's so bad he doesn't even recognize his own lawyer. So, the atrophy in the last 2 years of being locked up there, I can't imagine. Did you see the last picture of him?
I did, when I was looking, because something popped up. I forget what it was, and I found out that the bail was $6 million. I couldn't believe it. So, I probably did see the last picture, which was horrific.
White hair, long beard like Howard Hughes. Unrecognizable. Very sad.
Now, what about, you talk about, rumors and stuff like that about him. Now, what about R. Kelly? Again, too, you must have heard something because of the tapes, right? Any rumors about that?
Never dealt with anything with R. Kelly. Never dealt with it. Obviously, everything I know goes off of hearsay and what's been reported. But never dealt with that R. Kelly stuff. Everything that I've dealt with publicly is pretty much already out there. I mean, the only thing I could pretty much tell you is I got involved with the Whitney Houston death stuff back in the day, and that was a tragic story.
Yeah, I was in West Hollywood when that happened.
Yeah, I was at the Beverly Hilton while her dead body laid in the bathtub above me in 405. I was in 305, and I was freelancing for ABC News at the time because it was over the weekend. I was babysitting my nephew who was 3 years old, and they would call me to go out and do stuff. Like I said, I do stuff that PIs can't do. So they got me a room there, and I came with hundreds of dollars of bills in my pocket and paid off every single room service guy and valet parker and anybody I could to glean information about what happened that week. And
I tell you,
that was
the night it happened. Because I'm from came from Vegas to go to downtown Hollywood. The night it happened, and it was like something was released in the air. There were fistfights everywhere. These girls in these giant platform shoes, like falling over, drunk, passing out in the street. It was like hell was opened up. A window to hell was opened up in that day. You could feel it. It
was a weird time.
Yeah,
it was a very strange time.
Okay, Pam Anderson and Rick Solomon. Okay, and I've heard a story that the whole reason they got married was to sell a tape. Do you know anything about that?
Not sure.
Not sure, no?
I knew Rick and know Rick very well. They got married a couple different times, but never to sell a sex tape. But I do remember that when he did marry her the second time, he called me up and said, "Hey, what's that Steve Hirsch's phone number?" And I said, "Why?" It's because he owes my wife money for the sex tape that they never collected on.
Oh, really? They got ripped off on that?
Oh, yeah. They never got a dime. Did you watch the TV show? Cam and Tommy TV show on Hulu?
No, I don't think I did, no.
Oh, dude, you got to watch that show.
I got to watch it.
Anyway, listen, I got to wrap this up. As much as fun as this has been, I have to go off to a lunch meeting right now, but it's always good to talk to you, Ed.
ProfileDefenders.com. Thank you so much, Kevin Blatt. All the inside gossip. You got something. When this book comes out, Confessions of a Hollywood Sex Tape Broker, you got to give me a call.
I hope it's a TV show, to be honest with you, because the working title of the TV show is called Civilians, and I hope I'm able to sell that as is. But Civilians, I gave it the title Civilians because in the adult industry, when you work inside that little microcosm of weirdness, everybody outside of the porn bubble we would refer to as civilians. So if somebody would say to me, "Who are you going out with tonight, KB? What porn star?" I'd be like, "Oh, no, I'm not dating a porn star tonight. Tonight I'm going out with a civilian." So I think that's going to have some cachet, and I think it'll go a long way for entertaining people.
Yeah, when I used to do the organized crime defense too, we used to call people that weren't in organized crime civilians too. Hey, he's a civilian; he's going to get away with it.
He's just a regular Joe, right?
Yeah, you can't touch him; he's a civilian. Yeah,
Yeah. AA, they call you normies, I guess, if you're not part of that situation. But listen, if anybody in your audience has anything that they feel might be salacious or they think it might be worth any money, you could always hit me up at Kevin Blatt on Instagram or Twitter or all the social medias. I do respond to just about every single message or inquiry someone sends me, which I guess makes me a little unique, right?
Or they can get a hold of me first, and I'll get a hold of them for you.
Call Ed Opperman, and we can bring Ed Opperman, cut him in on whatever deal. But yeah, I'm always out here, and I'm working. I'm always hustling.
Man, thank you. You really put me in a great mood today, man. Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm glad I could do that for you, bro.
Good night, friend.
Good talking with you.
You too.
Have a good holiday season. See you in the greeting.
God bless you.